Hi, everybody. I'm Marilyn London, membership chairman and board member of the Friends of the Stirling Road Library. And I would like to tell you how happy I am to see all of you in the gallery today. I see most of you are friends of the library, so to you a special thank you for making it possible for us to have Shelley with us tonight, and as well as all of the other wonderful facilitators who join us on our Zoom programs. If you are not a friend and would like to check us out, please go to www.stirlingfriends.org. See all of the great things we do, and for $10 you could become a friend and join us. So I will leave that with you, and I hope you have a nice time with us this evening. I hope you're all getting your newsletters. If you're not, please let us know so that we could solve the problem and you make sure you get all of the emails we send you, especially the weekly newsletter.
I don't know if I'm getting anything because I don't know that I signed up. I just signed up for this.
You did? Okay. If you have checked your, I don't think this is the rest of August, which is almost over, and then September will be coming. Check to see all the great things we're doing. Before we go any further, please, everybody mute. Put yourselves on mute. When we are done at the end, you can unmute to ask Shelley any questions you want or make any comments, but please, at this time, everybody, Sharon, put yourself on mute, please.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so we are from all over, Shelley. We're not citizens of the world, but we are citizens of many places. So this is apropos to our movie tonight. And you are going to be with Citizens of the World next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful trip, and we will hear all about next at the September movie before we leave tonight.
Yes,
so
you will.
Take us to all about tell us all about the Citizens of the World. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Marilyn. Hello, everybody. Nice turnout this evening. Thank you for coming. And yes, we're doing Citizens of the World, as the director likes to call it, lontano, meaning distance. And the director's name is Gianni Di Gregorio. He's worked in theater, film, throughout most of his career. As a writer, assistant director, and actor, he is a graduate of the prestigious Academy of Performing Arts in Rome. He came to prominence in 2007, having co-written the screenplay for a film entitled Gomorrah, which won the grand prize at the 2008 Cannes Film Festival, and the Italian Academy Award and European Film Award for Best Screenplay, which he wrote. In 2008, he made his directorial debut. In his late 50s or his early 50s, he made his directorial debut with a film entitled Mid-August Lunch, which was critically acclaimed and an audience favorite, which won him a Venice Film Festival Lion and an Italian Academy Award as Best New Director. He followed this remarkable breakthrough at the age of 59 with a film entitled The Salt of Life in 2011, and a film entitled Good for Nothing in 2014. Citizens of the World is his fifth film, winning an Italian Academy Award again for Best Screenplay. He is often compared or called the Larry David of Italy, with the same circular, ironic view of life. His films are about nothing and about everything. He celebrates older characters rather than patronizing, pitying, or discounting them, or us, for a matter of fact. Instead of looking back with nostalgia, the third age, as he calls it, the third age is a time of discovery where humor and a shot of grappa as you've seen in the film, will get you by, and where setbacks come with silver linings. And like Woody Allen, Albert Brooks, or Larry David, he has taken the lead in all his films. In Mid-August Lunch, he played, just to give you a little background, he played the bewildered 60-something son living with his feisty 90-year-old mother in the center of Rome. And in The Salt of Life, the follow-up film, he played a sexually awakened sexagenarian house husband who realizes he's invisible to women. And in Citizens of the World, he follows the escapades, as we've seen, of 3 retirees and manages to cast a critical eye on the bureaucratic Italian government's mishandling of immigrants, as well as I'll have more to say on that later. Anyway, the film is broken down into 7 days of the week, and that in itself is somewhat symbolic. And as it opens on Monday, we first meet Il Professore, the only name he goes by in the film, by the way, and that is Gianni Di Gregorio, the director. Il Professore, a retired Latin teacher. And with his signature baggy eyes, which everybody in Italy knows at this point, he's enjoying a glass of wine at his local bar. Enter Giorgetto, another pensioner who complains a lot and doesn't seem to do very much at all, except begin the conversation about moving somewhere where the euro might stretch further than in Rome. He is also letting Abu, as we see, an African migrant, use his house to shower. I love the way he complains about it. He comes to take a shower, he never leaves. Anyway, the two go to meet Attilio. They wind up meeting Attilio, who lives like a retired hippie in a house his father and brother built, where he restores antique furniture and makes handicrafts to get by. Attilio is a wonderful character who takes them off to meet. When they tell him their plight and what they want to do, he says, I have the perfect person. Il Professore, another Professore, where in one of the funniest scenes in the film, he provides them with advice on the best places to go, ranking the candidate countries according to political stability, tax systems, crime rates, the climate, and above all, the price of a bottle of beer. Because we know that in this film, there's a lot of beer, a lot of wine, and a lot of food. Hey, it's Italy, folks. But he gives them a choice: Malaysia, Cuba, Bali, Bulgaria. As it turns out, the scene ends up with what the Professore really wanted: some drinking buddies to share his grappa with. Anyway, embarking on their plan to travel finally to the Azores on advice from the Professore, where they'll hopefully open up a small hotel to enjoy their golden years, we follow their misadventures for the rest of the week, where they gradually come to discover that there are other factors beyond taxes that keep them in their homeland. It seems that cheap beer won't be necessarily the secret to late life happiness. While hilariously trying to gather up their meager finances, as we see, and trying to wend their way through the obstacles of bureaucracy, especially, I love it at the beginning when they go to the post office to get Giorgetto's check. And they're sitting there, and there's one woman behind the counter. Boy, this looks familiar in the United States, too. There's one woman sitting behind the glass door. He says, why they got 4 glass doors? There's 4 glass windows. There's only one person. They're the only ones there, and she shuts it down. Anyway, we see him, and then we see him go to the Social Security office. I love it when he tells them that he wants to move out of the country, and can he have his pension forwarded? And when he's asked where he wants to go, he says, I don't know yet, but can I get an advance? One of the funniest scenes in the film again. But anyway, we see the Professore selling his books, finding out he's only got 400 euros in his account in the bank. So they know they don't have enough to go anywhere. But then when he goes, and then in another scene, Professori goes out when they settle on the Azores, he goes out to buy a bathing suit. I love it in the next scene when he's sitting there on the bed with his socks up to his knees, wearing the bathing suit and looking at the atlas and trying to figure out where he's going. But and also after they've settled on the Azores, there is their language lesson with Attilio's Brazilian friend Marissa, whose mother winds up making them dinner when Giorgetto almost goes out the window when he smells her food, and it really couldn't care less about speaking Portuguese. And as they depart after the evening of food, one gets the feeling Attilio seems to be fond of Marissa, and maybe she of him. Anyway, Giorgetto, who again hits up his grosser brother, will agree to work for him for some cash. And the Professore going to see the doctor. Here's another hilarious scene. I mean, this is a bit like Larry David, I mean, he is. He goes to see the doctor and he's convinced he's got emphysema. When he's told he's fine, then he says, I have a bad liver, it hurts. He says, that's interesting because the liver has no nerve endings. And although he's pronounced fit as a fiddle, not to mention that the woman he's been admiring at the bar finally gives him a newfound confidence when she says, meet me here tomorrow or the next day. By the way, that's another, when he sits there, he keeps eyeing this woman from the very beginning. She keeps showing up. And when he does finally meet her, I love the guy behind the bar. When she walks over, he says, compose yourself, get ready. Anyway, it is really the subplot concerning Abu that interrupts their plans when Attilio helps him out with some work. He learns what happened to him in Mali. And this is really, talk about getting to the point of the film. This is where it happens. And he learns what happened to him in Mali, losing his home, his mother, his grandmother, his siblings leaving the country, and his finally deciding to leave and taking 2 years to get to Italy by foot, by car, by boat. And when Attilio drops him off for the evening, he sees how he has to sleep literally under a tunnel. As he's driving off, you get the feeling he's concerned. We also learned that Attilio is a lot more attached to his daughter when she shows up with a meal for him. And after she tells him she was bummed out about his leaving anyway, when he tells her he decides he's not going. And as things get more serious about leaving, he feels he had felt even closer to her. When we see what they do with Giorgetto's lottery win, his €1,000 and the rest of their combined resources, and he tells the guys, I decided I don't want to go. Il Professore seems relieved. He says, see, it was too fast. And he seems relieved, and they convince Giorgetto to give all the money to Abu so he can get to Canada. It's a wonderful moment when they agree to help him achieve his goal, and then they drive off for lunch. Now they're driving off for lunch. But before they drive off for lunch, the thought we must have, and it should be a good feeling at that point, it is ironic that the one person who was forced to leave his homeland for a place he thought would offer a better life leaves him looking at 3 guys in a truck who were crazy because they wanted to leave, I couldn't help but thinking as, we follow them around the streets of their Trastevere neighborhood, reading the morning paper over a glass of wine, or traveling to the outskirts of Rome. in view of the Colosseum and the seashore, eating sandwiches and drinking wine and beer. We're all invited to wonder why these three would ever want to leave. Fortunately, through a series of setbacks, including that old dog, Joey, the emigre, Abu, and a date with a lady, and especially the camaraderie they have found with each other, provide them with more than enough reasons to stay in Italy. And while it took 7 days to create the world, it only took 7 days to discover that they're happy with the world they're in, ending up where they started, no less unworldly than they were before, stuck in the middle of nowhere, eating watermelon, and maybe content in being where they should be, all three together. But I love it when his brother isn't at the house and they decide to cross the road, and there's nobody there. He says, nobody's here. There's nobody in the town. It's like everybody else left. Though the film is mostly a series of conversations, they are full of wry observations about life, filled with humor, and fueled by the wine and food, and above all, empathy, ultimately revealing the human need for companionship and understanding. The choices these three face and the thoughts that go through their minds, or at least we think are going through their minds, should resonate universally with many people in their age brackets, us among them. There is not a false note in any of the observations and conversations. Every bit of dialogue rings true, the way they curse each other out, and eventually arrive at their situation. We get sucked into their lives and their predicaments with complete empathy. We feel comfortable with them. We could see ourselves discussing some of the same problems alongside them at their regular table in their regular cafe with a glass of wine or a cup of coffee. With them, I began to miss their company the minute the film ended. But it is with Abu that Di Gregorio manages to make his concerns known. In interviews, he revealed that while I was writing about the escapades of the three pensioners, there were stories on the news every day of migrants arriving in Italy on dinghies or on boats overturning and migrants drowning. I got the idea of a young African guy, Abu, hanging around with the three pensioners because I wanted to explore the notions of acceptance, of tolerance, of welcoming people to our country. The Italian government has imposed some very harsh laws against migrants, and no one seems to know what to do. It also becomes clear in the film that Abu is the one who needs to travel the most, not the three old Romans. Something incredible happened after we finished the film. And I'm going to get another smile. Salih Sadin Khalid, who plays Abu in the film, is a real migrant, or was a real migrant, and he used the money we paid him for the film to leave Italy and join his family in Canada. It gave them so much joy, and it should give you joy to know how that ended up. Di Gregorio also made excellent use of the locations where we see local markets and streets, as well as the tourist sites and the picturesque places in the rural areas around Rome, the lakes and the countryside. The music also happily complements the film, reflecting the whimsical and comedic elements as they go by. And his professor is so deeply connected to the city. It's as if he's an integral part of it. Tourists take photos of him as well as the fountain he's sitting under. I thought that was very funny. It's like two Japanese people who look like Japanese people are walking by with their cameras, and they're taking a picture of the fountain with him sitting in front of it. And all the actors, whether in the main or featured roles or bit parts, are excellent, and they all contribute to a cross-section of the life of everyday Italy. Having a glass of wine at a bar, eating outdoors, traveling by bus, shopping in the markets, meeting a student who interrupts your shot at romance. Remember his student, interrupting when he wanted to talk to the woman, or just walking through the streets. I love it when Giorgetto, when his friends, make fun of him because he wants to leave, and they said, "You never walk past the gates." And he leaves them at night, and he goes to the gates, and he decides not to go past them, and goes back home. Anyway, Di Gregorio has perfected his on-screen persona of a man who enjoys his wine, a good conversation, and a beautiful woman within his age range. Anyway, Giorgio Colangeli, who plays Giorgetto, is an award-winning actor, including having won a Best Actor Italian Academy Award. He has played gangsters, comedic characters, and politicians in a lot of well-acclaimed Italian films. Ennio Fantastichini as Attilio was a beloved actor, a winner of the European Film Award for Discovery of the Year when he was younger, and nominated 7 times for Best Actor or Supporting Actor for the Italian Academy Award. He's had roles in memorable comic films and dramas. Sadly, he passed away before the film was released at the age of 63. Ironically, he was the youngest member of the trio. And Roberto Herlitzkia, who plays the older Il Professore, is both a theater and film star, still going strong well into his 80s, having won the Italian Academy Award for Best Actor and acclaimed for his supporting appearances in many award-winning films. So there you have a rundown on the film, the actors, and the situations and what Di Gregorio was getting at all along. So now I'd like to hear from you about this charming little film and get your feelings on it. So who's gonna go first? Let's see your little yellow hands, or raise your hand. I don't care how you do it. There it goes. Thank you, Jackie. Dive right in.
Of course. Shelley, this was a refreshing break, and we really liked it. We go to a local neighborhood pub, bar, whatever you want to call it, frequently during the week, and every single day there's a table reserved for a bunch of older guys that are there, and most of the time it's the same guys, and they're always there changing things and fixing the world and settling things. And that made me think of them constantly, because they're all actually very comfortable in what they're doing, and yet they're just ever so slightly not. And I think that's really kind of typical of being retired, and just, you begin to get used to things. And so you look for maybe the grass is greener on the other side, but it really isn't. So we thought it was a terrific movie, and we were really glad for the change of pace.
Absolutely. That was my intention. It's the last film of summer, and I want you to go out with a smile on your face. Thank you, Jackie. Karen. Oh, wait. Yes. Did I hear somebody else? No. Karen, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to say I really enjoyed the movie, and I also had the feeling that it was a thing of the feeling the grass was greener on the other side. But I think we have to think also that we get the impression that we're isolated, sometimes, and we really are actually touching a lot of people around us. So influencing them and not even knowing it, like the professor with his student, and then the guy that helped Abu by feeding him, and where would he have been without someone to feed him and let him take a shower. And then another thing that was silly, that my first impression when I saw the picture when I was looking up the movie was, I thought that watermelon stand was a yurt, and they had actually gone somewhere. And that was before I watched the movie, though. So, anyhow, but I really liked the movie a lot.
Terrific. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Larry, did I interrupt you? Larry, did I interrupt you before? Oh, okay. Thanks. Aulette.
Hi.
Yeah, okay.
I go along with everybody that absolutely enjoyed the film. Camaraderie is so important in life, no matter what stage of life. But as these men had gotten older and they had focused on leaving, they really concentrated, I think, on their relationship becoming even deeper between them. I just saw it evolve and became stronger. That is one plus that we all need. But as I don't know the woman's name, I'm sorry, but it is always greener on the other side. But I did love when they went to the older professor and he opened up the book and said, you know, go to Malaysia, go here, go there. And he's telling, wait, what's his name? Attilio, telling him, open up a hotel, 3 or 4 rooms. You can learn how to do that. I mean, hey, you know, and then all of a sudden he puts his thought into this man's head and this man actually goes along with it mentally anyway. So it was just so funny, as if he caught the ball and you go to the next step. And yet, of course, we know it never evolved, but it was a wonderful movie. I thank you. I enjoyed every step of it. And you know what? I would have liked to be amongst those guys.
Oh, yeah.
And had
Absolutely,
the
absolutely.
wine and thought about moving here and there. I thought it was a great film. Thanks for recommending it.
Thank you all. It's what's interesting is all the little details along the way,
Yeah.
which make you feel that way. It's when the professor says to them, you know, let's have a drink. You know, after he's trying to convince them where they could go, telling where they can go, they sit down, they're having the grappa, and he's pouring them the glass, and Attilio says, "No, I'm driving." And then the other two says, "Well, we'll have another glass." You know, he says, "This is 24, this has been in the barrel for 12 years or 24 years, whatever it was." And he says, "Well, okay, I'll have another one." And then the next thing you know, they left and they're having beer. It was very funny watching
Oh,
them go through the.
I forgot one thing. May I just say something
Sure, go ahead.
that I thought was so poignant? Because I'm a collector of art and sculptures and stuff. I like unusual things. But with Attilio, I cannot pronounce it, who
Sorry.
had all these wonderful things. And when he went to sell it to the man that had the consignment shop, and then he walked back and he looked up and he kissed that totem pole, that sculpture. Oh my God, I said, I know how you feel. I'm with you 100%. That was
Yeah.
very interesting. Heartbreaking too.
He was also interesting because he had the didgeridoo, he had the totem pole, which, you know, he was a man in the world. I mean, but he was like an old hippie, you know, who was surviving by the skin of his teeth. It was very funny. I love it when he goes to see his daughter at the beauty parlor and he's walking out and he's you know, he's flattering the woman that's sitting in the chair and she's rushing him out of the shop. It was very funny. Yeah, all of these little details, so real, so good. Thank you. Rachel.
Anyway.
I love the movie also. And sometimes it is great to just dream. And even though it never became a reality for them, it gave them a purpose. It gave them something to break out of their routine of what they normally do. And I thought it was very funny when towards the end of the movie, when they're collecting the money, and he first takes all the money from everybody, then tells them what he would like to do with it. And I thought that was so funny because, you know, before, you know, they could like second guess and say, hey, no, I'm not giving you the money. He has the money already in the box. And then he tells them, you know, I would like to do this. And it really wasn't a long hesitation by anybody saying, you know what? I'm happy where I am. You know, I might complain and everything else, but let's do something beneficial. And I also loved, and it cracked me up, that when they were first meeting the guy that was supposed to be knowledgeable about all the places to go, they didn't have an address. And they go, oh, it's a guy with a motorcycle. So we got to look for a guy with a motorcycle. And I'm going, who doesn't get an address? And they're wandering around.
Well, they were not
looking for
very practical.
But was
Yeah.
it wasn't just the idea of it wasn't just the idea of the motorcycle. They're standing on the street. He says, well, he's got a motorcycle in the front yard. He says, look
They
down
won't-
the street. It's full of them.
Everybody.
Yeah, so I just thought that was so funny because there were several scenes like that, you know, it's just they are really don't know what they're doing. And we're there in the process of them doing this. So I loved it. It was just a lot of fun.
Good. Well, and you know what? It isn't about jokes. It's the humor is organic because it arises out of the situation. And even the language they use is not, you know, it's not used for bad purpose. It's natural. It's the way they talk. It was, you know, and that was really why you accept it and why you accept these guys. But it was Giorgetto at first was a little put off by what he wanted to do with the money, and Attilio says to him, what are you, stingy? And puts him down. I love that. There's always going to be one, you know that, but that was terrific. Yes. Sharon.
Well, I love what everybody was saying, and I enjoyed the movie very, very much. I laughed out loud. I couldn't remember. I know I've seen these actors before in other movies when I could get to foreign films. I don't recall where I saw them.
Well, the only way you would have seen Gregory DiGregorio is in his own films.
In New York, when I was up north, I would go to foreign films, and there used to be foreign films. I don't know. I've seen them before.
You might have seen one of his films. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did. It was almost like a slapstick in a way. The two guys, the way they kind of, you know, fluidly didn't know really what they were doing other than, you know, and yet they made these decisions to look for the motorcycle, you know, and they just, oh yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's more not so much slapstick, it's
Not
more
slapstick, but
screwball. It's more what you call
like a
screwball.
screwball thing, with like an Abbott and Costello, not to that extreme at all, but like a screwball-y thing, because I come from a very practical orientation. And I also, I mean, it was beautiful generosity that he allowed this complete strange kid to go into his apartment and take a shower, something I would never do because I would be afraid. And then he ends up giving him all his money, which is kind of, for me, something I would never do. But it was just it made a beautiful movie, and it was lovely, a nice, totally not practical. If that was entirely his complete net sum of what he had, because he wasn't thinking about what is he going to do for money as a
He's going to
retired.
do whatever he did before. He didn't have it before.
Right.
He'll go on doing it again.
Mhm.
You got to stay within the frame. You got to
Stay-
stay
that
within the
was
frame.
Within the frame, but it was just charming, wonderful, and maybe you could leave us with some other ideas of what to watch.
Okay. Well, that we do on other times. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was great.
Barbara.
Okay, I'm unmuted, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I enjoyed it. I love the old professor giving them advice. I thought it was just one of the funniest scenes in the movie I've seen in a long time. And he, you know, crossed off a couple countries because they'd have to marry somebody in order to stay.
Yeah.
But I didn't see the ending coming. I was just stunned, and I thought it was such a beautiful ending, such a great idea. I was just like weeping when they did it, and the kid just stands there dumbfounded, and they didn't, you know, film him having some kind of crazy reaction or anything. He's just standing there, and they drive off. I just loved it.
Yeah. Well, you
Hey,
know.
listen, you can Google all these people. If you
Yes.
just Google the film, it'll give you the entire cast. You can look at every
Right.
cast member, see what they were
Absolutely.
in, when they went. It's so easy.
Yeah, well,
But
I will,
I
and I will
love
tell
the
you.
ending.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, if you remember, I showed a film a while back called Terra Firma, which was
Mhm.
also about the
The
immigrant
artist.
crisis, about the island on
Oh, yes,
Lampedusa.
yes.
And
I remember the film.
if you remember at the end, the young kid takes the mother and child, gets them on the boat, and gets them off
Yep.
the island to take them
Yes.
to the mainland so she can meet her husband. Well, it's this impulse, it's humanity. This is a vein, I will call it, that in Italian film, it's humanist. This is very humanist filmmaking. And even though this is a comedy, it's light, it's charming, there is that strain of humanism in it, which we get at the end. And even in that film, we saw it. It is the right side. It's taking the right side of life and doing the right thing. There comes that moment when somebody has to make that decision. And it was, interestingly enough, it was Attilio that makes the decision of what to do because he was touched by Abu's situation. When he saw how he had to live and he learned his story, he said, it was basically, where am I running off to? This kid needs to get
This kid is
to his,
sleeping under a tunnel.
yeah, and he needs to get somewhere. He needs to get to a home. And I thought that was the most touching thing in the film. That's
Me too.
humanism. That is pure humanism. So thank you, Barbara. Wendy. Wendy, you got on mute. Where'd she go?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I too loved this film. I felt I was in Italy right with them on the roads, in the squares where they had the malls, the shopping carts. Anyhow, I felt that here you had these men were connected. They were a band of brothers. They had been friends for a long, long time. They talked, they drank, they ate, and also they were at an age where they wanted to make a change. But they were so connected and they were so involved with their country and their lifestyle that it was very hard to do. And even after collecting all that money, they realized, what was his name? Attila?
Attilio.
Attilio realized, and he kind of passed that on to the two other men. We really shouldn't do that. We should give Abu a chance. He's young. He's young enough to move and make a new life for himself and have a better life. I think this film had so much depth and possibilities that it was so many places it could go, and Abu had a future that was viable for him.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Arlette?
I forgot to mention, which I love, when the younger professor went to sell his books, which meant so much to him, and he rated them as the first edition. He thought he was getting so much more money for the books, and who he sold it to, one of the books was a gift from this gentleman. He
sold it to him. He sold it to him.
Right, but one of the books, I think I had heard, but you told me that this was such a terrific book and it's the first edition, and not so. We all experience something like this in our lives when you go to the consignment shop or you want to auction things off. It has so much meaning and you think you're going to get so much more. I really like that twist. That's a little scene, but a well-worthy scene. Really enjoyed that.
Good, good. Anybody else out there want to throw in their 2 cents, 3 cents, whatever it is? Larry, Jackie, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say one thing. We've moved an awful lot. And when we get to a new area, we try to see as much as possible. And a lot of times it's more than what people who have lived there for years and years have seen. And so it was kind of interesting. Who doesn't want to go to Rome, or who has been to Rome and doesn't just love every bit of it? And here they're looking at things thinking, yeah, it's the glades, it's the ocean, who cares? And yet we're all thinking, oh my God, look at the places they drive on the bus every day. And I thought that was really funny because I think that's so very typical of everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
is.
Well, I'm gonna be in Rome in 2 weeks, and I'm gonna be looking for Il Professore, hopefully having a glass of wine and joining him.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, Marilyn.
What I really found that I liked about the film mostly was that when you're talking about seniors, we're so used to seeing seniors as they get older, getting lonely and the negativity. And I thought that the beauty of this was that it reinforced the importance of friendship and camaraderie. And at that age, they were still so vibrant because of the relationships that they have and how important relationships are and friendships are, as opposed to a lot of the films that we see where people are lonely. So this was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, that's, and I think definitely that's one of the themes of the film is the idea of, your community. It's a sense of community. We all need a sense of community, and they had it, and they didn't realize it. As some of you were, the grass, you always think the grass is greener. And they weren't, there's no place like home. It's really
Yeah.
what we saw at the end of the film with them slurping the watermelon and spitting out the seeds. This is where they belong.
Could you
So-
imagine picturing them actually going to the Azores? And it would be a disaster.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
No. Anyway, yeah, Jean.
Hi, I don't know how to do the icon, but yeah, you took the words out of my mouth that I could almost see them clicking their heels. There's no place like
It's
home.
like home, yeah.
I think that it's life imitating art, isn't it? That the actor took his money to immigrate. It's an amazing twist of, art, life imitating art.
Yes, yes.
In the movie,
It was a joyful moment when they found out. It was terrific. There are so many memorable little things happening in the film. When Giorgetto first goes to his brother, and he's looking for money, and he says, before Mom died, she left this both to us, so I want my half. He said, you got to work for it. He says, I did. He said, when? In the prehistoric age? I mean, it was funny the way, he reacts to everything, the way they react to each other. This is his brother, and he's, it was just they were one after another. It just happens. It's what I call organic humor, that just arises out of the situation.
Yeah.
And it's hey, this is comedy. This is true. This is the comedy of life. It truly is. Yeah, Jean?
You have to unmute.
You have to unmute.
You're
I'll
muted.
join you. I'll join you for that glass of wine in Rome. And I'm wondering,
Okay.
is anyone else there tonight going on our trip?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
No,
okay.
just you. But thank you.
Yeah.
Is this the trip with the cruise from Rome or no?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is a cruise.
Right, I feel like canceling Canada and going with you.
12 Italian ports. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else?
Ellie,
No?
what do you recommend that we watch on our own? while you're
Oh,
away?
please. I can't, it's very difficult right now, for me to make recommendations off the cuff. I'm trying to think. There's really nothing I've been watching that's really had me, captivated, so to speak. I wish I did. If somebody else has something they'd like to recommend, we're open for it. But I think, it's sort of this dog days of summer, they're not releasing much. But there will be some good things coming. If you get a chance, I mean, I highly recommend. There's a terrific film, Past Lives.
Yes, I've seen
that.
There's
was
also
good.
Perfect Days. There's a wonderful Japanese film called Perfect Days, which is available. There are
Shelley-
a number of films on
Shelley, I-
Amazon. Yeah.
Synchronicity, I just took out of my library and watched last night, Past Lives. It
Oh,
was
wow.
one of the, it was one of the most beautifully constructed and heartfelt movies that I've seen. Well,
Yes,
all I could
yes.
think was Shelley needs to show that one.
Yeah,
Filmmaker
it's
was great.
among my favorites this past year.
Very good.
But there are a number of good films out there. That I would I recommend you go on Amazon, just go into the foreign film
Right.
category, and again, there'll be some more coming up. In fact, in September, I will be back September 26th. And the film that we'll be seeing, or that you'll be seeing on Kanopy, is called Revoir Paris. And it's a touching story, a wonderful human story that begins in tragedy, but ends in hope and finding one's way. It takes place and it's based on the terrorist attacks in France that happened some years ago. It was known as the Bataclan attacks on the Bataclan Club in Paris, the arena, and the woman is involved and survives, and she wants to, having sort of amnesia about the attack itself, wants to investigate, and goes on a journey to find out exactly what happened and how she managed to survive and meet other survivors. And it's an absolutely, it's a film told from that point of view, from the people who survived this. And it is a wonderfully told story with a terrific actress at the center of it, who won the French Academy Award, known as the César, for performance back in 2020. It was last year, 2023. She won in 2023. Virginia Fira is her name. And I'll tell you more about the writer of the film and everything else. It has an interesting backstory as well, but that you'll have to wait until the 26th. So I wish you all a good end of summer.
And bon voyage to you
well,
and that
thank
young
you.
lady. I wish you
thank
the
you,
best
young lady.
voyage.
I'll say ciao,
Enjoy.
ciao, ciao.
Ciao, Bella.
Thank you.
Manja,
Thank you.
manja.
And I'll look forward to seeing you in September.
Okay.
So take care.
Have a wonderful
Enjoy.
Have a
trip.
good trip.
Thank
Have a
you,
good trip.
Rachel. Thank you,
voyage.
everyone.
Bye,
Good trip.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
well,
Nice
stay
seeing
safe.
everyone.
See you next week, Shelley.
Okay.
Love,
Enjoy your
Próxima.
cruise.
thank you.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye
Bye.
bye. They're gonna leave.
Bye.
Leave.